Hello and welcome to Guider's Gun Guide. I'm Ben Guider, your host. Happy post-Thanksgiving and Black Friday. In honor of the day, I am doing a buying guide video for youth air rifles. Primarily it's going to be targeted at, your kid's first air gun. But some of these buying guide tips are also applicable for shorter statured individuals, even adults, because we're going to be discussing some important factors, specifically length of pull and how that relates to a gun for shooting comfort. So, as you can see here off my shoulder, this is the selection of air rifles I have that are the shortest, smallest length of pull. And what you see here, according to my wife, when I was telling her about this about an hour ago, what you see on the table does not represent a problem. I don't have a problem. I promise. I can quit anytime I want, I swear. What you see here, though, is several iterations of youth air rifle buying attempts to attempt to get things right. Try to get the best shooting comfort and experience for my youngest. He got started shooting earlier than my other two older children. So really the length of pull, cocking effort, weight of the gun, right? All of these things came into play in my decision buying, or my buying decision, backwards. Unfortunately, not all of this information was terribly readily available, so it was a little bit difficult for me to ensure that I put all of those pieces together correctly. And what I ended up with is a little bit of memory from my childhood experience with a very rusty, old, needed some maintenance Red Ryder as the first BB gun I put my hands on, up to my first, it was my air rifle, a Daisy Quicksilver 840/841. I don't remember which model number it was specifically, but it was the Daisy Quicksilver 840 series. And I have an air rifle here that I would call probably the descendant of that design. In fact, I would say the design is probably almost, at least the internals, almost unchanged. In fact, the receiver is plastic, just like the one on my old Daisy was. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore. The stock 4N, both plastic. You know, it's an exceedingly light gun, very easy to operate. And that was the first air rifle I bought for my youngest. And that's the second one here. This is a Daisy. This is the Grizzly model. It's got a nice little, real tree or what have you, camo pattern on it. Variations of this exist. In fact, you go to the Daisy website right now, it's called something different, but it's still the same internals, same guts, same measurements, same everything. So that was the first air rifle I bought for my son. However, once he put it in his hands, it was very apparent that there were measurement issues. The length of pull was too long for him, which, I'm buying the air rifle for, how old were you when you got your first air rifle? Were you 6? Yes, okay. Little man is right here behind me. You can see him just in the corner. He is going to be assisting me with this video today. So, this air rifle, at 6 years old, the length of pull was definitely too long. It was very obvious when he shouldered it, when he shot it, what have you. There was another, the grip, the distance from the grip to him being able to reach the trigger with his finger was also a little too long for his age. But the gun was purchased primarily because I knew he could cock and pump it by himself, which he did. I had tried buying and I can't find it anymore. It looks like they maybe discontinued this model, probably for good reason, honestly, because it's the only air rifle I have ever returned. I think it was a Crossman, and I forget the name of it, but it had a little, the butt plate had little notches, and it would extend and collapse, and it was supposed to be, you know, bite for the kid, and it would grow with them, right? And it had two little plastic rods, and it would hold it very, very flimsy and what have you, which honestly wasn't the reason I returned it. It's because every time you would fire it, the pump handle would pop loose. Now, I'm sure I could have played with it and, you know, squeezed something and fixed that. Chose not to, because again, so between, you know, between that and the little kind of flimsy nature of the back and some other things with it, it really didn't work out being that good first air rifle for my son, at least at the age that he was, and size that he was, right? It just didn't fit. So ended up taking it back because there was enough wrong with it in the first place, and it wasn't really fitting the needs. That's what led me to buying the Grizzly, again, off of memory. Now, mind you, I got that first air rifle, that Daisy Quicksilver, I had to have been, I don't know, 12, 13, right? So older, bigger, it fit comfortably, weight, not an issue. I mean, these things are exceedingly light, you know, a few pounds maybe, right? Maybe 3, I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but they're not heavy at all. So exceedingly easy to use, exceedingly easy to pump, accurate enough for a reasonable distance, right? I had a blast with that gun. I got really good with it. But anyway, and so that's what led me to that gun. But when I put the sight, when it went into his shoulder, when he went to try to use it, it bothered me that it still wasn't hitting that, you know, 6, 7-year-old youth air rifle mark I wanted. Now, mind you, you look at all these air rifles and, you know, they're all ages 10 and up or something like that, right? So part of that's on me. I'm arguably trying to get something that doesn't fit the age requirement. And that's on me. So don't care. It's what I wanted. Now, the only other air rifle, and the one you don't see sitting on this table, it's that one, right? It's that Daisy Red Ryder, you know, lever action, spring piston. I deliberately did not get that one. Reason being is going back to that earliest childhood memory, right? When I was 7, about my son's age, when I'm buying his first air rifle, we had one of those old Daisy air rifle, hey, you'll put your eye out, you know, Christmas story type stuff, right? We had one. And the only way at that age I could cock this thing was putting, in fact, I don't know that if I ever shot a BB out of this thing, but barrel down, wrong, I know, 7 years old, moving on. Barrel down, all my weight pulling on that cocking handle to try to get it cocked. That's why I say I'm pretty sure the thing needed a little bit of maintenance, but even still, I have tried to operate a Red Ryder as an adult, and the cocking effort, just the leverage and the shortness of the cocking arm and everything like that, I knew it was not quite going to get it done. In fact, this past weekend, we're at Grandma's house, and my son is playing with Grandpa, and Grandpa's got a Red Ryder. He's outside having a blast with it. He's cocking it, having a good time. But it's not necessarily easy to cock, right? He has to brace it on the ground, buttstock down. We taught him right. Buttstock down, and he's cocking that thing up, okay? Still harder to self-use with the younger muscles, right? Smaller muscles, than this Daisy. This Daisy's still easier to use. In fact, I asked him right before we started filming this video, so, buddy, what is the, sorry about that, y'all. What of these air rifles that you have, what's the easiest to shoot? What's the easiest to cock? And he said, yes, this one was absolutely the easiest. Second easiest to cock was, in fact, this air rifle here. We're going to talk about that one in a second. And then the Daisy, Red Ryder design, okay? But the Red Ryder design has a proper length of pull for his body, for his size. So length of pull, the Red Ryder's best, but self-using, it's not. right? So it seems like there isn't, at least not that I have found, there isn't that perfect 6, 7-year-old, here buddy, here's an air rifle, let me teach you how to use it, let's go outside. You know, of course at that age kids want to be independent, do things themselves, right? You show them a couple of times and then they want to do it themselves, right? So, you know, obviously with proper adult supervision, right? You take them outside and here, let's do this. I can't find, at least I haven't found that 6 or 7-year-old coffee pot turning off, self-usable air rifle for a child of that age. That is weight appropriate, that they can hold it, right, without tipping or having to, you know, do the lean back thing. We're going to show that in a second. The length of pull is correct, and the ability to actually operate the gun can be done by themselves. You know, I think it looks like, at least for what I found, that there's a gap in the market right now that no one, it's crazy, has filled. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over several of these air rifles. You're going to see what we're talking about with the different trade-offs and what you can do to adjust for that. Okay, things you can do and be like, okay, well, this is more important to me than this, and you know, I can manage that if I do it this way. Okay, so what we're going to do is, first thing is, wow, long intro, lots of information, is we're going to look at the air rifles I have on this table, and we're going to be talking about, first thing, length of pull. You see I've got little orange pieces of paper, little post-it notes, okay? All right, so I've repositioned the camera here so that we can look down at all the air rifles I have here. And so we're going to, I have them actually lined up in length of pull order, okay? Now, you can go online and you can find, you know, I think I found a guide on wiki how-to maybe of how to determine your length of pull, how to measure it, okay? All of these rifles I have measured. So length of pull is distance from the tip of your butt plate to the middle of your trigger, okay? Middle of your trigger. All of these have been measured, and I have them all lined up in order of that, okay? So here at the bottom, I have a Ruger Explorer. This is actually marketed as a youth model air rifle. It's in fact made by Umarex, but I found another company, a Chinese company, I forget the name of it, they've recently started marketing, or at least I've recently found them, who I think might be the, in fact, original manufacturer of this air rifle. In either case, all of these are manufactured probably at the same plant in China that, and you know, all given different labels. So you can actually find this air rifle in like a lime green stock model, marketed by Umarex. This one is got the Ruger name on it, right? The licensing that they did for it. I like Rugers. I own Rugers, 1022s, etc. And so that's why I chose this one. It's pretty good. It's my shortest length of pull that I have here at 12 inches. This was the second air rifle that I bought for my son. And it was because of the length of pull issue with this one, okay? We've already talked about this. This is a Daisy. Let me see if the model's actually on here somewhere. If it is, I don't see it immediately. Oh, there it is. Model 840, okay? Oh, my Quicksilver was a Model 840. Ah, look at that. Okay, so this is a, so I'm sorry, let me go back to the Ruger. So this is a break barrel, as you can see, right? Break barrel air rifle. It's actually, for a break barrel, it's exceedingly easy to cock, okay? This is a single pump pneumatic, so you cock the handle to load a BB or a pellet. Single pump, okay? You can't over pump these. Multiple pumps doesn't do anything. There's not a separate valve in this that you're pressurizing with each pump. It's a single stroke compression area, and then you pull the trigger, it pops the valve, fires the air that's pushed in there. So it's fairly low power. 300 something feet per second is what it's rated at. I've never measured it. In fact, I need to. But it's 13-inch length of pull, okay? The Ruger, I'm sorry if I didn't say this, is 12 inches length of pull. So a full inch difference between these two, and let me tell you it makes a difference. I'm going to tell you the other thing that made a difference in the shootability or the comfort of shooting is this design. This the neck of the grip here and distance to get to this trigger is a little more difficult than this pistol grip here. My son's had a much easier time pulling in comfort with this trigger as a result. Next up is my daughter's first air rifle. She's not really into shooting as much as the rest of us. I showed her, she's like, oh yeah, sure, let's get that one, the pink one, right? We'll say what that means, take that for what that is. But that's why she ended up with a Crosman 760 Pump Master in their pink design. It's a 13 3/8 inch length of pull. Okay, so 3/8 of an inch longer than the Grizzly. Moving up, we have the Remington Airmaster 77. You see it's got had a gentleman make me or he sold me a brass cocking arm, and there are a couple of modifications here. At some point I'm going to do a review on this air rifle. But this is in fact a modern Remington Airmaster 77 that I replaced with, I had to go find on eBay a Remington Airmaster metal receiver because these are coming in plastic now. But the internals here are actually the same as the Crosman Legacy 1000. The basic design here, though, is based off the Crosman 2100 series. But the 2100B, currently sold today with the brown wood-looking plastic stock, and the Airmaster 1000 and the Remington Airmaster 77 are different. They have different internals, to where the 2100 is actually rated at a slower velocity than the Airmaster and the Legacy 1000. Anyway, separate issues there. But length of pull here, 13 7/8 inches. Okay. Here I have a Gamo Swarm Fox in 177. Length of pull is 14 5/16. And the longest length of pull on this table, and some of y'all that have one are not surprised by this, this is a Crosman 1322 with the stock, the extended stock here, 16 1/16 inches. I was eyeballing all of these, so plus or minus a 16th or so on each of these, so don't crucify me. This could be 16 inches, it could be right at 16 1/16. It's right there, okay? But longest length of pull is this, arguably, it's the shortest overall length gun on the table. Now, my son, I've got him a 1377, which is the 177 caliber of this one. This is a 22 caliber. And it's one of the hardest for him to use by himself, even though, he has it in the pistol version. It doesn't have a stock on it, and he loves shooting it. But trying to cock the cocking arm and the hammer of the 1300 series is really hard for him. And trying to pump it beyond about 4 or 5 pumps, it gets exceedingly hard. He can barely make 5 pumps with this. Okay, so even though he can shoot it as a pistol and it's great, self-use is challenging. Okay, so there's your length of pulls, and now we're going to show why that matters. Okay, so I'm going to get my little demonstrator here, and we're going to reset the camera, and we're going to go through each one of these. All right, so here's my helper. Say hi, helper.
Hi.
All right, so I'm going to show you how to measure length of pull for yourself, child, whomever. Okay, so turn sideways for me. Now, what you want to do, step this way. There you go. Put your arm up. Easiest way is keeping your upper arm straight by your body. Put your hand up, or put your arm up, and then measure, and you're measuring from the bicep or the corner of your arm out to the middle of your index, or out to your index finger or middle finger. So when I do that, index finger is right at 11 inches. Okay, so his length of pull for his air rifle should be 11 inches. Now the Daisy model, the Daisy Buck Model 105, I think it is the small youth air Daisy Red Ryder design, has an 11-inch length of pull. That would be the perfect length of pull air rifle for him. However, remember what I said, the cocking effort on it is the hardest of any of the youth air rifles he's tried. Okay, so the first air rifle I bought him was the Grizzly. 13 inches length of pull. Now, mind you, he was a year younger, so he may not have even he might have had less than 11-inch length of pull that he should have been using. Even still, with an 11-inch length of pull, you can see he's still a bit long, a little bit further back than he needs to be. His nose should be almost 1.5 inches, 2 inches right in there off his thumb. Now, reach your finger down to the trigger. And you see he had to reposition. When he was in his hand, pull your hand back. His hand here, his grip it's really tight, or it's really wide around this to get all the way up here. This was the big problem. For him to hold the gun correctly with his grip, his finger wouldn't reach. In fact, for a while he had to try to shoot with his middle finger on this air rifle. Finger off trigger. Okay, so this right here, between length of pull and his grip, it's not the ideal scenario. However, he can operate the shooting mechanism all by himself. So what we ended up doing was he ended up doing a bunch of rested shooting, right? Prone supported positions, bench rest shooting, right? Propped up on a pillow, these sorts of things. So he had an air rifle that he could shoot by himself, and these length of pull issues were mitigated as a result. But I really wanted him to have a air rifle that fit him correctly. So I did a little more digging, came across the Ruger Explorer. Okay? Now, the Ruger Explorer, it's a spring piston air rifle, break barrel. This tube is steel. This thing is significantly heavier than this guy by a lot. Okay? I'd say the Grizzly is maybe a pound and change, 2 pounds tops. This guy is probably up around, 5 or 6 pounds. So it's heavy. However, here's the cool thing. He can cock it all by himself and put it in your shoulder. There you go. Step forward just a little bit. Now notice here, see how he's leaning back? When an air rifle or when a gun in general is too heavy for the shooter and they're having trouble with it because of upper body strength, their natural reaction is to try to lean back to create that counterbalance leverage against the weight of the rifle all the way out here, okay? But, lean forward in your right shooting position. So, I taught him how to get a better shooting position. Lean forward to the waist. We're still working on it. But you see, he still has to try to lean back because of how heavy this air rifle is. However, look at put your face on there. Look at his length of pull. Hold your grip right. His length of pull is much, much better. Look at the distance from his nose to where his thumb is. That's almost right at an inch, inch and a half. Just about perfect. Reach up towards the trigger. And it's easy for him to get to the trigger here where he's supposed to, because the distance of this grip, it's actually built quite nice for him. Let me see this real quick. I've shot this air rifle. It's fun for me to shoot. I'm 6'1" though, and trying to get my hand in this grip is really hard. It's tight. In fact, I usually have to shoot with my pinky hanging off just to feel comfortable. But it's a fun little air rifle to shoot. I don't know the velocity off the top of my head, but here's what happened. So I get him an air rifle that has the correct length of pull, so that I can actually be teaching him his correct shooting mechanics, right? How to pull his trigger, how to set up his sight alignment, how to hold it in his shoulder. But as you can see, I'm still running into the problem of he can't shoot it standing offhand. He has trouble with it. It's heavy, right? Of course, teaching him, how to mitigate all of those things. So I still end up with a bench-rested scenario here most of the time because the air rifle is just too heavy for him to shoot. Now, of course, he's pretty good with kneeling. You want to try kneeling? All right. Now, as you all know, standing offhand is the absolute most unstable, most difficult way to shoot. However, now that he's got an air rifle that's his right length of pull, he can actually get on the air rifle, get his face up where it's supposed to be, have his grip just right, he can pull the trigger, and if you notice, he's actually got a pretty good stable position where he's got his elbow on his knee and all these sorts of things. So even though the air rifle is heavy, it's the right length and size, and he can now learn his proper shooting mechanics, and the weight can be mitigated a little bit just through different positionings. Okay? Come on up. And just to show you a very exaggerated example of how length of pull is totally horrible, this air rifle is going to be pretty easy for him. I think it'll be easy for him to hold from a weight perspective. However, look, his shooting hand is almost fully extended. For him to get any type of, forearm, finger off the trigger, forearm off the, he's fully extended on both his arms. This is not a good shooting mechanic position, okay? Even though, is that gun heavy? Pretty easy to hold up. Not a problem, right? Weight-wise, thing's actually pretty decent. But his length of pull is awful. This is terrible. This is not going to produce a reasonable shooting position, okay? So, all right, so what have we learned from all of this? Well, I hope you've learned a little bit about length of pull and the different measurements that are going to be important to the comfort of your smaller framed or younger shooters. These same rules apply for, teenagers, young adults, okay? This has nothing to do with age, really, okay? It's the size and strength of the shooter, okay? So, for example, if you had a smaller frame shooter, come here, stand here. Stand up nice and straight. 50, we'll call that 51 inches. So 4'3", okay? My son, he's 4'3", okay? And he's got an 11-inch length of pull. So that tells me somewhere around about 5 feet, you're going to get about a 12-inch length of pull for a shooter, give or take, okay? Rough math, okay? What that means is this so-called youth model break barrel air rifle maybe the correct size, shooting, lengths and everything, for a 5-foot shooter. Okay, 5-foot shooters are teenagers, young adults. I've got a sister-in-law who is 4'10", 4'11". That's the right length of pull for her. Okay, she's an adult. She's 2 years younger than me. Okay, so would I recommend this air rifle specifically for her? Well, it depends on what she wants to do with it. If she was going to go, big game elk hunting, probably not. If she was doing, some plinking in her backyard at 10, 15 yards, 20 yards tops, might be a good option for her, right? If she's just wanting to work on her shooting mechanics and trigger discipline, squeeze, and everything like that, that might actually be a pretty good option for her. So, moral of the story here is you want to match as closely as you can the needs of your shooter to the gun, okay? And find that gun that fits them as best you can. And identify, if you've got to make a compromise, like I've had to do with buying air rifles for my son. You see him over my shoulder. He's trying to see just over my shoulder. There he is. Yeah. Adorable, isn't he? I love him. If you have to make compromises, right? Like, you know what? I've got a good length of pull. I've got a good size, measurement-wise, but it's heavy, right? Okay, great. Let's for me, I said, you know what? I can teach him how to manage weight, right? He can build muscles. He can work with it, right? He can learn positions to where he can minimize the weight. But I can't teach him really how to build poor shooting mechanics to try to get around an improperly sized gun. So I said, you know what? Weight, we'll work with weight. Because this is what I considered the more important thing, was to try to get him learning his mechanics the right way, holding the gun the right way, putting his sight picture the right way, okay? Trigger squeeze, all those sorts of things. That was the most important thing for me. So where does that put the Model 840? Okay, well, this I would recommend, right? 13 inches. Okay, you're talking again around about that 5 foot, maybe a little bit taller individual. Okay, great, cheap air rifle. Okay, smooth bore barrel. It's got a nice little BB reservoir. This guy is great indoors. Okay, in fact, we bought this for Christmas, and I didn't have any type of an outdoor setup really built to be able to really take advantage of this. So I built when you buy a daisy, there's always those instructions how to make your own targets, right? You get to take your cardboard box and you fill it with paper and old magazines and this and that and everything, right? And then you shoot BBs, because air rifles splatter lead all over the place. I didn't realize how bad it was, and I wish I did, because I was indoor shooting lead for a while. I've stopped that. Just a little safety notice there. There is a lot of lead dust that comes out of the barrel of an air rifle shooting lead pellets. And that's probably not a good thing in your house unless it's very well ventilated and you've taken measures for that. So indoor shooting, I will not do anything other than BBs anymore, once I really figured all this out. So this air rifle actually is a pretty good indoor BB shooter. All the same mechanics apply. Yes, you're only shooting at 5 yards, maybe 10 yards if you've got some distance in a hallway or something. If you're lucky enough to have a nice basement with some distance, maybe you do something there. But great for that. Maybe not for 6 or 7 years old, though. Okay, unless you got a really big 6 or 7 year old. Then you go, of course, the Daisy Air Red Ryder guy, the Buck 105, right? 11 inches, absolutely, yes. That is a great, perfect size. Okay, so I'd say if you've got that 6-year-old shooter, 7-year-old shooter that doesn't mind mom or dad helping them cock the gun and operate it, shooting mechanics wise, that's going to be a good air rifle for teaching them how to hold it, how to shoot it, right? But they may not be able to cock and operate it by themselves. So remember what I said, we got trade-offs in this buying experience. So you just have to look at those things and make a decision as to what you're willing to trade off. Now you're going to say, Ben, how do I find this length of pull? It's hard, okay? Daisy publishes it. In fact, I just was going through several of their air rifles. It's on their models. They list length of pull. So first thing, get a tape measure, measure your shooter's arm. Thank you. He's helping me out. It's an arm, Dad. Measure your shooter's length of pull. Okay, tip of the trigger finger to the crook of your elbow there at the bicep. Measure that distance. Okay. Daisy, they're going to tell you. Crossman, I have not been able to find it. Marksman, I don't know if they have those measurements yet either. I'd have to go looking. Okay, so I would love if some of the large airgun manufacturer or airgun distributors, right? Pyramid Air, Airgun Depot, Airguns of Arizona, all these guys. It would be wonderful if y'all put that on your website. I don't expect any of y'all to ever see this video. Maybe you will, who knows? But I would love that, Airgun Depot and Pyramid Air, they're really good about putting all the data, right? Barrel length and overall length and all these things. There's even one that even listed cocking effort, right? Usually with the brake barrels. I would love to see this particular measurement, the length of pull, right? So that the buyers can, okay, how much effort does it take to cock and operate? Okay, that's important to know. And then the length of pull. If we had that information, your first time, those buyers for those, youth shooters, younger shooters, smaller frame shooters would have a better informed buying experience. Am I sad that I got this Grizzly and it was my son's first air rifle? No, it's still a fun air rifle. In fact, I fully expect as he gets a little bit bigger, he'll shoot it some more once it's actually fitting him, because it's a really fun air rifle to shoot. And I'm not just biased because it was my first air rifle design. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit, but that's not the point, okay? Anyway, we're up to probably about a 30-minute video at this point. We're going to do some editing. I'm going to try to get this out the door today. So I hope you've learned something. I've had a blast making this video. I love giving out information. Love hearing myself talk, as y'all can tell, right? Little man over the shoulder. He wants to probably say, goodbye. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Happy holidays.